also having some information about trending skills that will be important for the future, for those who are still working on their career. Where can you get the best kick of your career? Then we'll have a few other sessions on conscious design and how can we redesign technology with a gender perspective. Then we'll have the amazing 30 for 2030 group who have been working on co-designing a toolkit for young people to prevent online violence, giving us quick snippets of what's in the toolkit, how to use it, how can we all help in the prevention of gender-based violence. Then we're also so lucky to have our partner from the French Embassy to speak to us about generation equality, about the Innovation and Tech Action Coalition, and the Innovation Year in Thailand. So without any further delay, I'm going to start with Melissa Alvarado. She's the project manager of Ending Violence Against Women in UN Women's Regional Office. She's also one of our amazing supporters for our work with young people. And we wouldn't have been here without the support of the Ending Violence Against Women. So Melissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ahmad, and a warm welcome to everyone who's joining us here today, both in person and online. It is a pleasure to be with everyone. And we are so pleased to have the chance to exchange, to learn from each other, and to have hopefully what will be a diverse conversation touching on a whole range of topics. So as we begin, I want to welcome you to the GenderNet Bootcamp, a joint effort between UN agencies, the private sector, digital transformation and inclusion experts to offer a technology learning and exchange space for youth. I want to touch for a moment as we begin on a pressing issue, which is facing many people online today, which is the topic of technology and online facilitated gender-based violence. This is something that many of us are aware of, but we may not always be going in depth about. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about that quickly. According to new data released by the Economist Intelligence Unit, the prevalence of online violence against women globally is 85%. And in Asia and the Pacific, the estimate is 88% of users who are experiencing this type of gender-based violence. I think you would agree that these figures are rather shocking and remind us of the urgent need to address this issue and to do so together. It's important that we acknowledge the connection between what happens online and what happens offline. Unfortunately, online violence against women and girls has serious harm and consequences in real life as well as online. In some cases, women have been killed for photos or videos that were shared online of them, or have committed suicide because of similar reasons. In the Philippines, research shows that survivors experienced not only emotional harm, but sexual assault, physical harm, and damage to their reputations as a result of online violence, which you can imagine affects their ability to be present online and to be active and engaged online and to grow and to lead. Online violence, therefore, comes with serious economic, social, and political impacts. Women may leave their jobs, silence themselves, or be silenced, and leave online spaces due to violence and harassment they face online. While this is a worrying issue, it's very worrying, the good news is that online violence, like other forms of violence, is preventable. And that is part of the reason why we are here today. UN Women, along with the 30 by 2030 network, developed the Youth Guide to End Online Gender-Based Violence Toolkit, which is something we'll be discussing in this event today. The toolkit is for anyone interested in learning and taking action against online gender-based violence. It was designed with the knowledge of a body of evidence that shows us that prevention approaches do work. And when I'm talking about prevention, I mean stopping violence actually from beginning in the first place. And if these types of approaches are designed to question and reimagine the current power structures that put women and girls and people of diverse gender identities at a disadvantage, then they're more likely to work. This may be power within relationships. Who cooks the food? who cares for the children, is the primary earner, and makes decisions about money and resources. These decisions matter in relationships, and how we share power really matters. When there are disagreements, are both partners able to equally find the solution, or does one partner demand for the other to follow their lead? Equal sharing here is key and directly tied to violence. And if we are able to move our conversations about our expectations about power between us in relationships or between us and other family relationships and even in institutions, we'll be moving us towards gender equality. So similar questions are true when we look at institutions, companies, workplaces, universities, or government institutions as examples. And let's think here about ICT companies. We're here to focus on technology today and platforms. Are women and girls leaders in these institutions? What happens when they're absent? How are designs for online services, products, experiences, platforms different when women, girls, and people with diverse identities part of the design, trialing, and review processes? This sounds basic, but unfortunately, it's not always happening and does change when this happens, when women and girls and people with diverse identities are at the center. UN Women recognizes that youth bring a new perspective, solutions, and models of development that help us table gender inequality, particularly when it comes to the use of technology today. We wish to work together with all of you to create safe and inclusive online spaces for all. I wish all of you a fruitful, productive exchange today, and thank you again for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I think you always bring in the magical word of that prevention is the best way of responding to violence against women. And I think that's where our focus should be. And we're hoping young people can bring in that perspective of new ideas to prevent violence from happening from the first place. Our next speaker is Ms. Chacha, Chief of Gender Equality in UNSCAP, our dearest partner and our host, and our biggest supporter to bring in those all of those issues to a higher level within policy programming with work with government. So we're so happy to have you with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Imad. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so delighted to join you at this GenderNet Bootcamp event. As highlighted by the speakers during the International Women's Day commemoration this morning, women and girls are facing a myriad of challenges. And amid the rapidly evolving digital landscape, unequal access to the internet and digital devices hinders women and girls from harnessing the benefits of digital transformation. For example, in the Asia-Pacific region, many women entrepreneurs do not have the digital literacy or access to digital tools needed to increase their customer reach or expand their business. That's why ASCAP developed a regional initiative several years ago called Catalyzing Women's Entrepreneurship, which includes a pillar to invest in digital literacy training and promoting tech-facilitated business solutions for women-led micro, small, and medium-sized businesses. To address various challenges, we will need multi-stakeholder engagement and cross-sector partnerships in our efforts to advance gender equality in the digital age. Recently, 6 UN entities came together to organize the Asia-Pacific Regional Consultation on the technology and innovation and gender equality. The consultation brought together governments, private sector, and CSOs from across the region to share good practices and identify policy recommendations to address the digital challenges women and girls face. And we recognize for such policy recommendations, it cannot be just a dialogue among government officials. We have to have the voices of the private sector and civil society to make it work. Today, on International Women's Day, we not only commemorate women and girls' contributions to shaping a more connected world, but also reaffirm our commitment to leave no one offline in the digital age. It's encouraging to see so many young women entering the technology field and are already making a difference, including some of you sitting on the panel and in the room. And I know many more aspire to be tech leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators, and educators. All of you can be change makers. Together, we can build a more secure, equitable, accessible, and inclusive digital world. I hope you will all enjoy this bootcamp. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chacha. Our dearest and new partner of UN Women, LinkedIn, Rebecca, has made it a very long way to be with us here today. We're really grateful to have you with us, but also for all of the amazing insight that you provided earlier about gender equality, gender equity within the business sector. We're so happy to have you with us, and the floor is yours, Rebecca.
Thank you so much, and happy International Women's Day, as you say, Ahmad, every day. Thank you so much for having us here. We're really delighted to be partnering together for the bootcamp today, but obviously more broadly as well. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional networking platform, and we are absolutely committed to trying to create a more equitable world of work. I spoke this morning about the fact we know, and we can see from our evidence, that the world of work is not working for women as well as it does for men. And there are a whole range of reasons why that is. We are very committed to thinking about what that means for us as a platform. And there are certain product discussions that we have around how can we make our platform a more accessible place for women. And some of the things that we've looked at in understanding our own data is trying to think of tools that help women. So flexible working is something that's been touched on already. We have a tool to be able to look for jobs by flexible working. So trying to respond to the needs of what it is that women need when they're thinking about their professional lives. And I know you're going to talk about design in technology later on this afternoon. And I think the more innovation we have coming into that thinking, all the young innovation that's going to come in terms of thinking through the sort of gender mindset as we're building tools and we're building new platforms is going to be critical. We know that from a professional network point of view, and one of the things we wanted to bring to you this afternoon, and my colleague Rapi's here in the room is going to do the next session, is thinking about professional network. And we know from our data that women are 28% less likely to have a strong network than men. And that therefore creates a whole heap of other consequences. So whether that's in the startup context, it means potentially less access to capital, or perhaps to a wider sort of talent pool to lean on when you're starting your business. So it's really important to think about how do we help women enhance their professional networks, and that's something that LinkedIn is there to try to help to do. However, on the positive side, and I'm just thinking about startups, there is some new data that we're seeing about the share of female founders growing faster than the share of male founders, and that's globally, but it's dominant in our region as well. Now, there was a spike in that during the pandemic, which perhaps tells us that there were some push reasons why women needed to go and found their own businesses. But on the other hand, there are perhaps some underlying trends there with digitization, which we talked about this morning, and other things that are enabling women to go and set up their business in a way that they couldn't before. I just wanted to mention that inclusive digital spaces are really, really fundamental. And thank you, Melissa, for sharing those reflections, because if women can't participate safely in the digital economy, they're never going to be equal partners in that. So that's something that's really important and fundamental for all of us in terms of providing services from a technology point of view to address and understand. And lastly, I just wanted to say it's so important that we're talking about this, and the theme for this International Women's Day and the theme of the Committee of the Status of Women discussions this year. It's so powerful in bringing together, I think in a way perhaps we've not seen before, in public, private and civil society connection. And it's really only through that power of connectivity that we're going to be trying to address some of these barriers from all angles. So once again, thank you so much for having me here today, and happy International Women's Day.
Thank you, Rebecca, Melissa, and Chacha, for setting up the scene, giving us that bird eye and what we're dealing with. Now for our next session, we're going to jump into the exciting part of this day, which I'm really excited for, is how to rock your profile. I mean, being within the UN for a very long time and participating in a lot of recruitment, I've seen how important it is to have that first glance of your profile and resume. It takes us, from a lot of recruiter, from like 15 seconds to 30 seconds maximum to make a judgment on your profile. And sadly, that's the reality. We've seen it from corporates, from public sector. There's lots of demands from the public. There's lots of application. So you need to make that first impression and then a lasting impression to get advanced to the next step. So we're so happy to have one of our best experts in how to rock your profile. Rippy here is going to help us, and thanks to our partner LinkedIn, we're going to get some secret tips for how can you rock your profile. This one.
All right, okay.
We're all yours.
Thank you so much. All right. Good afternoon, everyone in the room and virtually as well. So my name is Rapi. Thank you so much for a heavy introduction and everything and all the pressures on my shoulder right now. All right. I hope this section, I think we have 45 minutes from now to rock everyone profile. All right. So I'll just walk you through the agenda a little bit. So we will have get to know LinkedIn. All right. So first, quickly introduce who's LinkedIn. Some of you may already have LinkedIn profile. Some of you may have the application, LinkedIn application, right? So we'll walk you through a little bit how to get to know about LinkedIn for 10 minutes. And then later on, we will do your profile and your story for about 10-20 minutes. And then I'll share some insight for 5 minutes and then Q&A for 5 minutes. All right. Anyone on virtual, you can feed in the Q&A now. And I think someone here could probably share the questions later on after the section. Okay. So get to know LinkedIn, right? Who's LinkedIn and what we are. I think, okay, before I answer the question, is there anyone want to share or, comments how much you know about LinkedIn? What do you think who we are? Any comments, any thoughts? Very quiet room. Okay, I'm trying to make everyone up. Okay, so LinkedIn is actually, Rebecca has mentioned earlier, we are one largest professional network. All right. Later, I'm going to share you what we are different in other social media as well. Our vision is actually create opportunities for every member of the global workforce. And what we do, why we important to you, why we have this section today, right? Why LinkedIn, all right? And our value proposition here is actually create the opportunities for everyone, all right? And how can you do that, right? So here at LinkedIn, we actually like every second we have like 5, 6, I can walk around, right? I'm not blocking anyone. Okay. Every second we have like 6 members adding into our platform. Okay. And then what happened? During the pandemic, we actually have more. All right. Not only female, we have like people who actually got impacted from layoffs as well. So they're actually coming on board a lot. Even the new graduations, a lot of young girls and boys here in the room. When you graduate, you actually try to find a lot of opportunities as much as possible, right? I'm going to share my personal details before I'm clicking to the next one. I born in Udon Thani, which is far away from Bangkok. Opportunity is very, very little, very limited. All right. Thinking of Udon Thani girl coming to Bangkok and then now work at LinkedIn. All right, which is the global company is not easy. So one thing that actually walked me through there or drive or push me through that is actually LinkedIn. So that's why I'm very passionate and worked at LinkedIn and sharing how to make everyone move forward and find a lot of opportunities as well. All right, talking about like 6 members every second. Right now we have like probably end of the 45 minutes today, we have more than 900 plus million member on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has worked with 58 million companies, all right, that have the LinkedIn page, which means, in other words, a lot of opportunities on LinkedIn platform as well. We have 14 million jobs posted on LinkedIn. We have 39 skills on LinkedIn, all right? Later on, I'm going to show you how to add your skills, how to be upfront of the recruiter, because recruiter would not spend much on your resume, right? They would probably run some keyword search and then see who matched the most. And one of that is actually skills. And we are talk a lot about skill-based hiring. So we are not searching or doing like, because you know this person, you got or you get this job, right? Now it's actually skill-based hiring. Okay, and then we have like 129,000 schools that work with LinkedIn. And the last one is a huge number, which we have 443 billion knowledge, that a lot of things happen in the platform, like everyone feeding on the platform, a lot of insights that leadership is sharing, you know, like everything is sharing on our platform. And with that data, we call a power of networking, right? Like for example, today, I'm the person at the middle. All right, I know one person today in the room, probably, okay, let me use your name, Rebecca. For example, if Rebecca work at UN, right? And then I know Rebecca, which is my first degree connection here. And then I'm like, Rebecca, I'm actually interested to work at UN, right? So how's the connection is powerful, how's the networking is very powerful, because later on, Rebecca can link me to the second connection, her connections, and another connection. So this is the powerful of networking at LinkedIn. Okay. All right. So I've been talking quite a lot. I hope this is not quiet anymore. So now I would love to touch what's the difference between LinkedIn and other social media. All right. Maybe no one know much about LinkedIn, but do you have any other social medias on hand today? All right. What are they? Instagram, Facebook, Line, Lovely, TikTok. Okay. All right. So, okay, if I have a donut today, all right, all these social media that you mentioned earlier, you probably post different things. For example, if I'm going to post a donut on Facebook, I'll probably do a selfie. And hey, I like donuts, and probably hashtag add location, right? And then if I'm going, I'm not sure that anyone use Snapchat, but if you use Snapchat, probably watch me eat a donut, right? Or if you're using Instagram, you probably see how cool the donut. If you're looking for donuts recipe, you probably look at the Pinterest, right? So all of these are different. I'm going to show you the Spotify and TikTok as well, because someone mentioned about TikTok. So TikTok, you probably watch me dancing with donuts, right? And if you were talking about Spotify, you probably listen to the donut song, right? So each of social media has a different one. And what about LinkedIn, all right? Which means I'm telling you, we are not posting all of this on LinkedIn, yeah? So if you're going to post on LinkedIn, what you should post, all right? I hope to operate a donut franchise one day. All right, so that's on LinkedIn. I'm looking for a job at donut company. That's for LinkedIn. I have 2 years of experience making donuts, telling like how long have you been experienced, how expert you are on LinkedIn. All right, my top skill are donut production and sales, right? I'm selling donuts, you know, I'm not dancing the donut on LinkedIn. And probably the last one, here are the 3 recommendations from the former donuts that telling me that I'm very good at selling donuts. All right, so these are the posts or information that we post on LinkedIn. All right, okay, now your story, your profile, all right? What I'm telling you now is actually everything is about you. You can make it live, okay? People visit your profile and they think about who you are. You can make a first impression from your LinkedIn profile as well. All right. So first, what you should do. All right. Let me give you an example. Okay. What do you think about this profile, Fido? Yeah, you're laughing. Okay. That's the first. Why you laugh at this profile? It's a dog, right? It should not be on LinkedIn profile. It should be on your Facebook or anywhere else. Correct. All right. What about this person? All right. Should be like wedding party with a beer, right? All right. What about this person, Richard? No picture, right? Correct. Like for example, if I know you today and then you search on LinkedIn, you search my name, Rapipon, and there are like thousands of Rapipon names on LinkedIn, and you didn't see my face, how would you know that it's me? Are you willing to connect, right? So that's something that's missing. What about this person? Sally. All right. Okay, Sally done a better job on the profile. I mean, like her photo, but they're lacking of the banner at the back. Looking at Dominic, right? Dominic actually have all the photo banner, you know, like somewhere related to the Sydney, you know, maybe he worked in Sydney, Australia, blah, blah, blah. So this is a good example that we should have. All right. Okay, now I'm going to walk you through one by one. Okay, sorry, can I put it here? Okay, so step one, we talk about photo, right? So adding a photo, all right? Adding a photo of yourself, it could be your own snapshot, all right? You don't have to pay money to go for the studio, you just can do it yourself. And having a photo, it means a lot to you, all right? So it's at 9 times more connections required, right? Like, and know your face, you know, like confirm that's you, let's connect. All right, there's 21 times more people review your profile. And of course, there are 36 more messages that you will receive as well. All right, so having a photo is critical and important for you. So start with that. All right, the second part, record your name. All right. Taipio has very long name. All right, you try to spell it as much as possible to make sure that everyone pronounce my name correctly, right? Some other nationality may have similar difficulty. So LinkedIn add this option for you so you can record your name, all right? So you can go to the mobile apps and then click record and then hold it for 10 seconds minimum. Try to avoid, you know, do not record in the club, bar, or any place that noisy. Go to the quiet room and then record, and try to hold the phone 4 inches away from your mouth so that it will get a best recording for yourself. All right. Okay. Third one, your pronouns. All right. You can right now you can add your pronouns to make sure that it gives authenticity for yourself. You know, right after the name, there's the pronouns here, he, she, right? So it's actually giving a hiring manager to know how to address you as well, and they feel that it give the respect to the candidates. All right, so this is the option that you could do as well. All right, that's the step 3. Step 4, create your profile video. Okay, I think I don't have to teach the younger generation here. I think you're probably more expert than me if you're doing the TikToks. So this is actually a 30-second video. So you could introduce yourself. You know, you can say your name, you can say what you have done, your experiences, what you're inspiring, you know, like things about yourself, and you can make more conversational by waving your hands as well. All right, so do it quick and short. And of course, you can see the analytic viewing here, how many people have viewed your video on the left. Later on, I'm going to show you 500 something right there. Okay, so this is an option to just to create your first picture, profile, name. All right. What else that we have? So you can add industry. All right. For the young generation who just graduate, no need to worry that you don't have specific industry. You can put your interest industry on your profile, and it gives you 9 times more profile view. Why it gives you more 9 times profile view, right? As a recruiter, I'm actually working with a lot of enterprise company, meaning like recruiter, they run the search, they're very, very busy. I'm telling you, they don't spend that much time, and they don't run the search 24 hours as well. So when they need to fire people, they just go and quickly search. And when they search, it's like they put the keywords, all right? And normally they put industry keywords. And that means more than 300,000 people searching by industry on your LinkedIn every week. And those are a recruiter, they're searching for you. Okay. Now moving forward, LinkedIn has an option, all right, for you to showcase yourself, whether you're open to work. Are you open to work now? Are you open to new opportunities? You are, right? There are 2 options for you. that you can do on LinkedIn. So first, you can open to work for all the member and you get a hashtag with a green tag on your name, your profile. Or you could do share with your recruiter only. So on your profile would not have the green tag and hashtag open to work. All right, so there are two options for you. And when you do the open to work, there are further features that you could filter out. Like for example, what kind of job title did you open for, right? Which location and what job type? For example, it could be full-time, remote, contract, or even temporarily. Not only that, right? You actually can say which is your desired start date. You are willing to start right now immediately, or you actually prefer flexible and casual looking. You can pinpoint that to your profile as well. All right, step 7 is compiling for your summary. So thinking about elevator pitch, all right? When you introduce yourself, who are you? What have you done? All right, and what you're looking for the next step, right? So it's quick and short. Do it sweet as well. Like you don't have to put like everything that you have done in your 10 years work. All right, just put a few points. I know that you're very good at this and that, but just put a pinpoint for the next play that you are actually interested. All right, so that when they run the search, they will find you. All right, the step, okay, I have 11 steps, guys. I don't know whether you feel too much overwhelming, but you don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to do like all 11 steps by today or after the call, right? You can do it like one step today and then second step tomorrow, all right? But having a full feature on LinkedIn will have more visibility and more connections and more options, more opportunities for you at the end. All right, so step 8, the feature content. So this is the feature that you actually can share your documents, your medias, anything that you've done, the blog that you wrote, all right, on LinkedIn, or if there's some documents that resonate to you, you actually can share it as well. All right, step 9, all right, tell detail about your work experience. Okay, if you are new grads, all right, I'm going to share both new graduations and then the person who already have like 10-year experience of work. It would be easier for you to put all the details of your work right there. But for the person who just graduated, you could actually add your volunteer, you know, your internship program, anything you've done during universities, you could add that one in as well. Because once you add those experience in there, 5 more connections requests. All right, there are 8 times more profile views, and then 10 times more messages that you could get at the end as well. All right, step 9. All right, detail about your, okay, step 9 is more of, okay, hang on, let me get back. Okay, same thing here. All right, sorry. So step 10, I think people mention a lot about like female, women. Sometimes we have a motherhood period, right? Maternity leave, we have a career break, or even sometimes we work so hard and then sometimes we need a certain break, like a year for a break. It's okay. All right. And recruiters or anyone understand that you have a career break. What you have to do is imply or telling them what did you do during the career break? What are the skills you have gained during the career break, and tied it up to your next play in the future, right? So you could share that, okay, what are the career break? There's the breakdown for you to choose that you be a motherhood or parents, child care, you know, add those in so that the recruiter understand what you have, why you have a career break, right? Okay. Activate the creator mode. So this is very optional for someone who actually a creator. All right. So instead of having a connect here, you will have a follow here instead. So you change your profile to be a content curator. Okay. Any questions? Nope. Okay. All right. I'm moving forward. This is an extra tip, and that's why I start from the step 1 again. All right. I'm asking anyone so that I have a break. All right. So volunteer. just like I mentioned earlier, so when you have an experiences and you didn't have like working experience, of course, you can add the volunteer experience here so that you have more visibility for someone who actually looking for a volunteer person, not just for the work itself, right? And of course, adding skills and get endorsed is very, very important. And I mentioned it earlier that right now we changed the hiring style. We are not searching for the job title. We are searching for skill based. All right. And LinkedIn has a LinkedIn Learning that later I'm going to share you the QR code so that you can scan and then learning and developing, reskill yourself. Even though you graduate, like for me, I'm graduate in marketing. But now my job is not really marketing. All right. So I have reskill and upskill, learn and unlearn myself along the way. All right. So this is something that you actually could do. All right. Make sure that your profile outstanding when you compare to the others, or your peers or your friends. Okay. And of course, request for the recommendation. I'm going to give you a tip for the recommendations. So when you ask for the recommendation, you can ask for your manager, your mentor, or even your friends. All right. When you ask for that, please be specific. Like, I want you to recommend me about this project that we done together in this certain area. Some person you actually could write a draft for them so that they have, they're busy. So they just rewrite it a little bit and then put it online for you. Okay. So that's the recommendation. Okay. So that's all about LinkedIn. Now I'm going to share you some insights of today's agenda, right? As of course, we're talking about gender gap, all right? And what's really happened in the market so far. All right. All these slides are by country. We have Australia, India, UK, France, Singapore, and the US. And all of these slides actually for the female gender hiring trend. Okay, we can see that there's some dropped in 2020 in April, and then actually we hiring back people, female coming back to the workplace. We're having a trend going up as well. But however, there's some dropped in April 2020. Focusing on skills, all right? We are talking about skills. And when we are talking about skills, we always have this in mind that all the skills that we have today, 50% of that will be gone in 5 years, all right? Thinking about the skills that I have learned in university for 4 years, only 50% that last for 5 years, and I have to gain again and again, right? So having said that, by 2025, you have to learn new things again. That's why we're talking about digitalization, technology, data scientists, blah, blah, blah. All right, so that's how important of the skills. And we have another report saying that 6.2% in Singapore, we already using this approach, the new approach, which is skill first approach hiring. Okay. Okay. I have shared few. I'm trying to bring up a lot of countries as much as possible, but these are the best that I can do. So this is the sharing of the skill first hiring in each country. And then this is the Singapore. I don't have Thailand at the moment, but I think Singapore is the closest APAC area that we have so far. Is actually 5% females vs male workers. Okay, so these are another percentage that I have, and I'm really lovely to share here that in male-dominated occupants, right? Skill first hiring could increase female talent pool by 10% in Singapore. There are more in Australia, which is 32%, India 29%, and global around 24%. Okay. Okay. I'm talking about the gender. I'm talking about the skills, and these are the skills that are coming up, right? You probably don't have all the skills that will be needed, but you could make yourself differentiate or more outstanding by having these skills, which is most popular coming in demand, right? So if, for example, if you learn this and put in your skill, your profile, you probably have more opportunity to get from the recruiter. Okay. like, for example, management communications, you might feel that, oh, okay, this is very simple, but once you learn and then you got endorsed from the LinkedIn Learning, or, you know, like anyone that endorsed for you on your profile that you have these skills, it makes your profile stronger. All right, and this also for, I have a soft and hard skills here. A lot of my friends graduate in marketing science, and now they're doing in tech company, they learn how to code, you know, because they're agile enough to learn and they're keen to learn in tech. They are right now switched their career to engineering, and then they learn all the crowd by themselves and work in the different industry already. All right. And of course, this is something that you would love to scan and learn, develop yourself. And of course, post on LinkedIn profile. All right. That's all I have for today. I've been talking a lot and the crowd very, very quiet. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Okay, is there any question I would love to take as well?
Yes, Melissa, we have questions. Please.
yes.
Open your microphone.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I thought I would ask a couple questions and possibly even encourage others in the room and virtually to ask questions as well. You know, so the United Nations, we're on the hiring side, and we often sometimes see challenges in connecting with job seekers who are in certain countries. And we're interested to understand how to better connect with those job seekers in certain countries who speak certain languages. And in some countries, we see particular challenges where we're very interested in connecting with candidates from places like Afghanistan, who may be in the country or outside the country. We know that there's a skilled workforce, but they're a little bit hard to sometimes find. So I thought I would just check and see what your thoughts are about how to make those connections better. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. And of course, Rebecca, you can add me later. I think it's more to you how we grow economic graph here as well. At LinkedIn, actually, and good to know that UN is actually hiring in demand. So it's a lot of opportunities for people here and also online. In certain area, LinkedIn, like especially for Thailand, we have like 3 million members in Thailand. All right, a lot of opportunities to grow. In other countries, probably facing the same as well. However, I'm quite sure that UN is open for anyone, right? So when in our search, in our hiring tools, you have an opportunity to run some search in that area, and then you probably have some insights showing how many members that you have in that area. All right, it might be less, it might be more in each location. Come back to your question, how to connect to that area. There are a few things that I could think of. First, you may run the search and see how many members that having so far. It might be little, but reach out to those people. These people, like for me, sometimes they reach out to me. I connect them to another person in my connections as well, whether they have LinkedIn or doesn't have LinkedIn. The second thing that I could think of is actually you promote it on like LinkedIn, like social media, sharing that we are hiring in this area, so that people who know in this area will keep sharing, especially for the leadership like yourself. You know, it's coming from you that you give opportunity to this location. The last thing that I could think of is actually, it could be down to earth. Like you have to go into that area, back to the basic, like traditional way, you know, like saying that, hey, UN actually hiring, because you want to showcase that not everyone on the social media, on the platform see the opportunity, but everyone, that we're not missing out anyone to see that UN actually hiring from, for example, Afghanistan, so forth. Anything to add, Rebecca?
No, I thought that was a great explanation. I think there is the capacity to search by different characteristics like language skills and things, which would enable you to, and then combined with other skills that you might be looking for, that can enable you in a sort of recruiter research to identify. But I think the amplification point that Rapi makes a really good one, because, you know, messaging out that you're hiring, there's a feature to say that you're hiring, and if people might be looking towards the UN to work, or, you know, following that, then they'll find it more easily as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions from the ground? Okay. Can we get a few more questions? You can open the microphone in your seat.
Okay. Hi, my name is Pear. I have a question about how for LinkedIn, I know that a lot of young people are turning to use LinkedIn for a lot of opportunities and professionally. So I was wondering, like, I know that maybe some of us have trouble with curating what sort of information we should put on our page. Sometimes we have a lot of things we want to share, but how do we, like, what advice would you give us as young people on what things we should leave out, what we should put on there? Thank you.
Okay, I think that's such a good comment and questions as well. I would come back to the donuts thing that I mentioned earlier, so keep that in mind. You don't have to post like so often, like every day, every week, you know. More of on LinkedIn for me, or even for you, like young generation, I think keep it open. All right. Finish your profile. All the mandatory things that you should have, like experiences, things that you have done. On the posting wise, you actually could share or comment on something that resonate to you. For example, you read a news or you join UN event today. This is something that you could post and then put some comment on it. Or you read a news on gender equality, you know, you share that and you comment on it. I think this is something that will be very powerful for your profile. And of course, on LinkedIn later on, right, you can connect, I mean, to me, to Rebecca, to anyone in the room, you know, and see things in the future that we could make the impact in the community in the future as well. I hope that's answer your questions.
Great question. I think not only young people need to think about that, everyone. We have a couple of questions from here in the room and on the chat as well. So, you know, okay. So can we read the question in the chat?
Yes. So we're getting asked, how can I effectively engage with my connections and build relationships on LinkedIn?
Okay. Get engaged with your connections. Okay. For me, I very engaged with my connections by, all right, I'll give you my example, like their post. That's something I think all the social media you did it, you like that post, all right. Not only liking, but sometimes I comment on the post as well. Like, oh, why, you know, like this is impact to me, what I feel about this post, and keeping engaged with my connection. Sometimes I do we call message on LinkedIn. So I keep the chat like, hey, you know, I heard you changed the job. Congratulations. All right. The small things always matter. Or how you doing, you know, this and that. But keep it professional. All right. Do not do like, have you had lunch? You know, like you travel, you know, like those kind of things. So make it more of professional because it shows you as a professional person as well. One more thing that I always do on my connection is that when I see some news, I actually share that news to that person. Yeah. So that's something that you can keep engaged on the LinkedIn platform.
But we can take one and one. Maybe we can.
Another one from the chat. Okay. After we have more than 1,000 connections, how do we ensure that information relevant or important shows up on our feed and we do not miss out on opportunities?
If you have 1,000 connections and then again, sorry.
Yes, so this is from the chat.
Right.
They want to make sure they have a lot of connections,
Right.
thousands of connections. How do they ensure that the relevant information for them shows up on their feed and they don't miss on opportunities?
Okay. Okay. Got it. So, okay, actually, I'm breaking down to two questions. So once you have a connection, so all the connections that they post, it will come to your feed. All right. Or even, for example, we connect to Rebecca and Rebecca click like on anything, I will see that as well. So that's how powerful of LinkedIn community is, not just Rebecca's post. The second thing is about opportunities. So opportunities, you actually can do direct opportunity, meaning a job. So you can go to the LinkedIn at the top and then search for the job. So if that call like opportunities on the LinkedIn platform, or of course, if your community, like just now we're sharing that UN is actually hiring. If anyone in my connections in UN posts that UN is actually hiring in this area, of course, that's something that we could think about opportunities as well. Yeah, I hope that answer. If it's still coming, I'm happy to connect offline and then answer more questions later.
And we also have another question here, and I would love also to hear from the panel because it's kind of relevant to that professional level. Can we read that question, please?
So also a question from the chat. What are good ways to share milestones or passions on LinkedIn without coming across as arrogant? From the chat.
Okay. I think if you already have that intention, you're probably not elegant already. Right. But okay, I think it's okay to share your opinions on LinkedIn and again, I would love to put this as is professionally because it's your brand. All right. So once you share, it shows how you perceive, react to that comment as well. Yes.
It's also like it's very known that women are too modest, and most of the time they are underestimating their values in comparison to men. And that's statistic. That's not my opinion, but I also say it in reality. And like, how can we boost that confidence in women to show off their milestones, their remarkable work? I don't know. I mean, it's the statistic is always say that women are underestimating their values in comparison to all other genders. Maybe any of you have some tips to how can we boost that confidence, or what do you do in your profile as well? And don't be modest, please.
Okay, well, I won't be shy coming forward. Look, I understand where that sentiment of that question's coming from. But I think there's a big distinction between sharing and celebrating something you're doing and being boastful. The very fact, as you said, Rapi, that the question is thinking about that means you should have an opportunity to share. People can choose what they engage in terms of the content. And it is a place to showcase the things that you're thinking, things that you're doing. And you know, your opinion is as important as anybody else's, and you mustn't ever doubt that. And I don't think it comes across as boastful. And I think it is really important, as you say, Ahmad, to have women coming forward to share what they're doing, what they're thinking. And if you're producing a sort of thoughtful reflection on something, that is a genuine contribution, and it would be perceived like that.
Okay, thank you so much. If no other questions from the ground, we're gonna jump into, you have one? Okay, please go for it.
Real quick, thank you so much for the presentation. I work as a statistician at UN Women, so I'm always interested in how things are measured. Just looking at the most in-demand skills, and you have a comprehensive list, right? So before we all redirect our energies into developing these skills, it would be interesting to learn how these statistics were generated. Is there a survey you ran with some companies? Were they all private sector, public? Just a bit of light on that. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much. It's actually from we call LinkedIn Insights. So you know that we work with a lot of enterprises and non-profit organization as well. And those companies, when they start posting the job, LinkedIn actually track everything. What are the skills that need for that job? And we know 900 million members on LinkedIn. We know their profile. We know what kind of skills that they have. And we know what are the jobs that posting. And we realize the gap. So that's why we could see what are the upcoming lacking potential skills that will be needed in the future. So that's why we have this. And not only this, we actually at LinkedIn, we actually can potentially see by country as well. Like saying in Thailand, what are the skills that coming up in Thailand, comparing to in Australia, comparing to the one in India, you know, like those insights very like resonate to me. Like, for me, when I first see this, right, when I first joined LinkedIn, I feel like, oh my God, this is something that very valuable. And if you have it, it's some, or I mean, LinkedIn, also, you don't have to buy or, a lot of reports on LinkedIn is available for anyone. You can run the search. Like when we sharing like 2020, 2022, 13, you can see and read that and then keep adding up to your profile. Yeah, but at the back end is the details, how we get the data as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ripipun. It was really insightful and it was helpful for me as well. I hope it was for everyone else. And we'll take a 5 minutes break. So we'll come back in 5 minutes to start the work on the online JBV toolkit. Will be a fun interactive session. So we're going to be moving a little bit in the room. So get some water, go get up, stretch, and come back in 5 minutes. Yep. Thank you. So I'm gonna leave it to you, Laurelyn. One of our amazing 30 for 2030 groups. She'll be facilitating from the ground, and then we'll have Chrissy and Hafsa joining us online. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ahmad. Hello, and welcome to our session, Digitally Safe. My name is Laurelyn, a 30 for 2030 member, and I'm joined today by my two amazing colleagues on Zoom, Kirthi Jayakumar and Hafsa Muhid. I promise this session is going to be engaging, educational, and hopefully entertaining. If not, maybe Kirthi will crack us all up with one of her one-liners later. If you or someone you know has experienced online gender-based violence or OGBV, you've come to the right place to learn more about it. OGBV is a critical issue we must address today. Did you know 88% or almost 9 in 10 Asian Pacific women experienced online violence? Knew someone that experienced online violence or witnessed online violence against other women, including those from outside their networks? That number could be higher due to unreported cases. On top of that, adolescent girls and those from vulnerable backgrounds are the most affected. As one of the 9 in 10, I've had to report online sexual harassment, and I know others that have also experienced other forms of OGBV. Besides online sexual harassment, there are many forms of OGBV: online threats and blackmail, cyber flashing, if we could have the slides changed, cyber stalking, doxing, disclosure of personal data online, online grooming, gender-based hate speech, identity theft, including impersonation and creation of fake profiles, morphing or transmogrification, sexploitation, sextortion, digital voyeurism, and Zoom bombing. I'm not going to go into the details here, but you can learn more about the different forms of OGBV by scanning the QR code on the screen. This toolkit is a by youth for youth guide that includes a glossary of terms, research on online opposition to gender equality. It's very interesting. And everything you need to know about OGBV, including forms, consequences, reporting, useful tips, and prevention strategies. There's also recommendations for different stakeholders to prevent OGBV, especially boys, men, and feminist techpreneurs. Before I pass you over to my colleague, Kirthi Jayakumar, I'd like us to play a quick game. You are welcome not to participate or drop out at any time, especially if you find the results triggering. It's called the privilege walk. If you're attending in person, I would actually need some volunteers to stand in a line in the middle here. So if anyone would like to volunteer, that would be fantastic. If you're attending online, put both hands up. And I'm going to read some statements aloud. If you're online, put a finger down if a statement is false for you. If you're offline, okay, you can just stand here. Yeah, in line here. Okay. Yeah, where's the men? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So for those online, if a statement is not false, is false for you, put your finger down. Okay, I am going to read from 1 second. Okay, if everyone is ready, online and offline, then let's begin. English is my first language. If that is true for you, step forward. False, step backward. If you're online, false, put a finger down. Yeah, okay, yes, one. Yeah, maybe this way. Yeah. I think that would be better. Okay, I think that's better. So it's less crowded. Fantastic. Yes, okay. Once more. English is my first language. True, step forward. False, backward. And if you're online, put a finger down. One or both of my parents graduated from college or university. I went to college or university. I don't or didn't need a visa to live or work in the country I consider home. I don't or didn't have to work to support my studies. I don't or didn't have to worry about how to dress to keep myself safe. I feel comfortable holding my current or most recent romantic partner's hand in public. I never had my gender identity questioned. My family had free health care or a health insurance policy growing up. I don't have a visible or an invisible illness or disability. I have a strong network of friends and family to turn to for support and advice. People have never assumed something about me because of a negative generalized belief about my ethnicity or race. I came from an emotionally supportive family environment. I feel confident discussing my personal beliefs. I never had people dismiss my opinion because of my gender, race, ability, or class. I don't know of an effective campaign to demonize an aspect of my identity. I can use a digital device whenever I want. I can freely use the internet for work or study or social media. I don't think twice or censor myself when I post something online. I've never received unsolicited images or videos of genitalia or sexual acts. I've never been threatened with disclosure of personal data online. I've never had someone steal my identity or impersonate me. I've never had intimate photos, videos, or audio of me shared without my consent. I've never been threatened or intimidated with compromising images or videos of myself, real or fake. I've never withdrawn from public life, family, or friends because intimate images or photos of me were leaked. I've never lost a job, earning capacity, social capital, and professional standing after experiencing OGBV. I've never deactivated or deleted accounts or quit social media after experiencing OGBV. And that's it. Take a look at where you are and look at where others are. Yeah. If you're comfortable sharing, please share one word to capture how you feel after that activity. I'd like for you to reflect on how you're feeling. What did it feel like to be one of the people in the back of the line? Or when you ran out of fingers to put down? Reflect on how it felt to be one of the people in the front of the line or with 5 or more fingers up. Did you think you were more or less privileged before this game? Did the results surprise you? Were there certain statements that had an impact on you?
I maybe age doesn't matter.
I feel surprised that I have privilege, at least at some level.
Even though you're still in the middle. Yeah. You had no space.
Yeah, early at the beginning when you asked a lot of questions about like family background, if parents went to college, or I stepped back and I didn't have space to like step back anymore. But then later on, when it comes to like supportive environment, whether it's with family or friends, I started stepping forward. So that makes me feel much better than the beginning, but also like I can see that everybody stepping up, stepping back, backward and forward. So it really shows how everybody, some of us like have privileges and some of us don't with certain things.
Fantastic. Yes. Anyone else? And if there's anyone online as well that would like to share.
It was actually surprising for me because at first I didn't have space when I was at the front. And then suddenly I'm like right at the back. There's no one with me. So it was really eye-opening. And it was kind of surprising to me how easy it was for me to kind of dismiss my privileges and how underprivileged I was in some aspects, because as like a coping mechanism maybe of how you have to survive in society and just like move forward with like your work or your life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
It's also very surprising that even when women have one or two privileges, it's still like life can just knock them back up. And then I realize I'm not pointing out at you. I was also going to be sitting like up in front here. Like I think, and most of us men, especially when it comes to online learning, we will be way ahead in that curve. And I wonder, how did you feel like staying, not even having a space?
But also unsurprising for me to sense my privilege, although I wasn't really aware of it before this event. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to say something?
Yeah, in the start, I was also going back because in my family, I never saw any woman who can go to the university and college. And then I decided to take a step. I will go to the university one day and the college. And I went, I didn't give up. I'm the first girl in my whole family who went to the university. But
amazing.
But thank you. For the next, I face a lot because I was the even first girl in the family who was using the Facebook. I started Facebook. But then I also face gender-based violence online a lot due to the step I took. There was even the threats for the honor killing, and because what I just left due to the religion or the culture. But I never give up. I never deactivate any of my account. And yeah, I'm still using. And right now I'm doing my second master's in human rights and democratization. And I hope
power to you.
Yeah. So I'm happy that I'm a strong woman and I'll never give up.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You make it all by yourself.
Is there anyone want to share online, or shall we move on? Okay, I think I'll pass the floor to Kirti.
Thank you, Laurelyn, and thank you everyone for participating and for giving this your energy and your engagement. Before I proceed, I just want to share with you that you have the option of taking a step back if anything that you hear in this section or after leaves you feeling triggered, because your peace of mind is a priority. So if you find yourself wanting to step away, step out of the room, if you're online, to disconnect and move away from the screen, don't hesitate to prioritize your needs. So I want to start with a story. A woman who is working to support survivors of domestic and intimate partner violence by providing adversary support often received explicit messages from the men who used to feel threatened by her work, and in turn, they began threatening her to stop doing what she was doing. Every day she put up informational content for awareness for survivors, she would receive explicit messages, unnecessary images that she did not solicit. Now, a point came where she simply had to step away from doing this work online because it just got too much. Now, that woman, sadly, is me. When I faced a lot of online gender-based violence for the work that I was doing, I felt defeated, traumatized, and deeply underconfident. I wound up stopping my work and going offline. And that meant 6 months of loss of pay, a big gap in my CV. 6 months is a long time. And I couldn't always explain that gap to people I was seeking employment from in the future. Now, this is not just my story. This is definitely my lived experience, but I'm willing to bet that I've shared parts of this lived experience with many of you that are working in this call online and that are listening in from the ground. It's true across the Asia Pacific and across the world as well. The consequences of online gender-based violence are not just felt by an individual, but actually have a ripple effect. Because role models being erased online means that several young women and girls will think twice before they post anything or even engage online. OGBV has devastating consequences that go across a continuum between the online and offline space. So to put it in a nutshell, some of the impacts include health-related, economic, social, and physical impacts, among a whole range of others that I'm not even mentioning at this moment. OGBV can create mental health impacts, can bring about anxiety, depression, PTSD, and even have physical impacts as well. A recent study actually said that 92% of women who faced some form of OGBV reported that it harmed their well-being. OGBV can also lead to femicide, or the systemic killing of women because of their identity as women. Women and girls who face a range of different forms of OGBV, especially image-based forms, are often perceived as bringing dishonor to their families, and several of them have been silenced in the name of honor killings. As for the social impact, OGBV can also create spaces for women to withdraw from, to feel that they're not safe to belong, to feel that the spaces are not for them to participate in. Over 76% of women experiencing some form of abuse or OGBV have reported that they actually think twice before they engage online again. And 32% have said that they've just completely stopped commenting on posts on particular issues online. That's an astounding number when you really think about it. It also has economic consequences. Like I told you, I lost 6 months of pay and had a significant gap in my CV that also played into my future positions after that. But the thing is, OGBV is preventable and it can be addressed as well. Now, if you take a look at our toolkit, you'll find more information on what the impacts are like, but we don't just leave you with a grim and doomed picture. Sorry, so many slips of the tongue. OGBV can be addressed, and one way that we think would be useful for you to know about is reporting it online. Now, you can report an incident on the platform on which it occurred. So you can familiarize yourself with the platform itself, understand what reporting looks like on that particular website, and learn where you go when an incident happens. Now, our toolkit actually maps out how to report across 8 different platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. We also offer you guidance on how you can report an incident at your workplace or at your university or school that you are part of. Now, one thing to bear in mind is these institutions should actually have a functional mechanism in place that you can reach out to should you face OGBV, which means we don't leave you empty-handed in such a situation either. We guide you on how you can advocate with your institution to set up these institutions so that if there was any incident in the future, there would be a way to redress it. Now, if you find that your workplace or your school does not have enough of support to offer, you could use our toolkit as a way to guide the system into responding to these needs as well. You can also report via helplines and civil society organizations. Now, India has an active cyber cell that you can report to online. Now, this may or may not be the same across all countries in the Asia Pacific, so it's useful for you to just do your research and understand what mechanisms operate and how you can access them when you need to. Regardless of the mechanism you choose to report on or not report on, a couple of things that you should bear in mind. Number one, to report or not report is entirely your decision to make. Nobody can pressure you to do either way. You get to be the one to decide. Number two, when you choose to report, please remember that if you have evidence, submitting it helps you make it a stronger case. So try to gather all the evidence that you can, whether that looks like screenshots or any other information that you can offer to make a stronger case. And finally, nothing about what you face in the name of OGBV has anything to do with you. It is not your fault. No authority that you report to gets to question you or to call any of these incidents a function of your fault. I'm going to stop for a moment and then pass this on to Hafsa, who will take you through the next piece. Hafsa, take it away.
Right. Thank you, Kirti. So I'm going to actually talk about prevention, but I'm going to start with an activity. So we're going to actually have some fun with a quick quiz. So for those who are first joining on site, please take the paper and pen kept for you and write down the answers for this quiz. And those who are joining online can drop the answers on the chat. So my request to all the participants is that you do not take more than 5 seconds. Please don't take too much time to think and just write down the answer that comes to your head. So we are off to our first question. Aroha's mother has 4 children named January, February, and March. What is the name of the 4th child? So you have 5 seconds to answer this. Okay, we are getting some answers online. Right. So the answer is actually Aroha. So kudos to those who got it. And to those who answered April, it's not your fault entirely. This is something we call unconscious bias, because when we do talk about January, February, March, automatically the brain comes with April. Because even though the answer is given in the question, it's human nature to be used to patterns. So this is why it's important to see role models of women in spaces if you want to actually look at female empowerment as an important activity. So the next question, while a father and son were traveling together, they met with an accident. When taken to the hospital, the son needed surgery. And when the surgeon was called, the surgeon replied, "I cannot operate on him. This is my son." How can this be? Or rather, who is the surgeon? So you have 5 seconds to answer this. Okay, we're getting some interesting answers. Okay, we are getting the answer, mother. Yes, the answer is correct. I'm actually delighted to see some answers. We have also got a really interesting answer of 2 fathers. Yes, we also acknowledge that as the answer in understanding that same-sex relationships are usually, they face discrimination. So that answer is also we are accepting as correct. Okay, to my next question then. Who is the most dangerous non-human living creature in the world? So you have 5 seconds to answer, and I want to thank Laura for coordinating the answers on site. I hope the participants are jotting down the answers. Non-human creature. Okay, so we're getting some interesting answers. Human also mentioned, lion, tiger. So the answer is mosquito. Mosquito is known to cause the most number of fatalities to human beings. So here what we are trying to show you is that we sometimes think of unconscious bias as something small, but when a lot of unconscious bias tend to happen, it can have a larger negative impact. So the final question for the quiz is, what is the common factor between Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant? So you have 5 seconds to jot the answer down for this question. AI. Okay, we're getting some interesting answers. Yes, we got few of the correct answers. Yes, they are female voices. So the one thing they have in common is that they are voiced by females. So these technologies were predominantly designed by men who have used female voices to cover this tech. So if you look at the function of this type of tech, assistance or service base, which is primarily to take commands and act on behalf of the user. So this is actually a clear example of unconscious gender bias. So this highlights the role that tech companies and innovators have to play in democratizing the digital world, because we see gender bias coming from offline to online spaces. Especially with the disproportionate number of women in STEM fields, it is important that we engage men and boys. So some simple ways that we can start working together with men and boys is, it is important that you acknowledge your privilege and use your power to challenge harmful gender stereotypes and norms when you design technologies, and look around the rooms you are in when you're making decisions. Establish healthy and safe relationships, both offline and online. Question and deconstruct your own gender bias beliefs as well as others. Educating yourselves on OGBV and practicing self-accountability. standing in solidarity with girls and women. So we have also outlined some real case scenarios which have been used to engage men and boys successfully, outlined in our toolkit. So feel free to check them out. So to understand, to create an equitable digital space, feminist tech actually cements the foundation. So at its foundation, feminist understanding of technology actually means making sure everyone has affordable, unconditional, meaningful, and equal access to technology, including the internet. Technology is far from being neutral, especially shaped by the societies that design it. From the idea that household applications should be operated by women and video games are for boys and social media is for young people, the technology is shaped by existing norms on gender, race, class, age, and other interesting social categories that actually shape power and privilege, which I think we experience through the privilege walk. While there is no single definition of feminist technology, just like there is no one single definition of feminism, feminist movements have actually played a valuable role in understanding power and equity in the digital world. So they are actually concerned about the issues of governance. So I'm going to share some questions right now. And while I'm joining you all online, so I would like to have a discussion with our online participants. And for our on-site participants, I would like you to answer these questions on your sheet of paper. Who do you think is designing the technology? Just take the technology we have around. You can answer this question in that paper. Who is designing the technology? Who it is being designed for? Is the technology transparent? Does this empower diverse groups and voices? Is this accessible to everybody? Who makes decisions about the laws that govern them? Who is left out of these conversations? Why are they left out? Is the internet democratic? Who is being censored? Who is amplified? Is the internet actually safe for everybody? Or who faces discrimination in the internet? So I'm seeing some really interesting answers on the chat, and I hope our on-site participants can carry on a discussion with the answers they have wrote on the sheet as well. So I want to bring this to a focus that feminist tech simply means we need to bridge the digital divide, ensure the right to privacy to those who consent to it, and make sure the internet and the digital space is safe, inclusive, and accessible. Thank you.
Okay, so we had a super refreshing set of insights from Hafsa. I'm going to lead you in an activity now. So while I'm speaking, I'd like to invite folks online and folks offline to get something to write with and something to write on. Folks offline, I know that you have access to sheets right in front of you, so you just probably can use the same sheet you used for Hafsa's activity. Folks offline, please make sure you have something to write with and something to write on. And I am going to trouble the folks offline later to turn on their videos. So if you're comfortable doing that, please make sure that you don't lose out on doing it. Okay, folks. So I'm going to give you a bunch of instructions, and I just want you to follow these instructions exactly as you understand them. Don't worry about what's right, what's wrong. Don't overthink it. Like Hafsa said, do the first thing that comes to mind and just let it flow from there. Sounds good? Okay. I'm assuming there were nods there. All right, so the first thing I want you to draw in the sheet in front of you is a line, a straight line. So I want you to draw a straight line for me. The second thing I want you to draw is another straight line. So one straight line, another straight line. Number 3, I want you to draw a circle for me. So we did a straight line, another straight line, a circle. Okay. I want you to draw another straight line. Straight line, circle, straight line. Indulge me a bit and draw one more straight line. I know at this point I'm definitely sounding annoying, but I'll keep it going. There's a lot where this supply came from. So straight line, circle, straight line, straight line. Before you throw anything at me, one more straight line. I promise. stops. Next, a square. I know, right? Like there's variety in the stuff I say as well, sometimes. Okay, so now that we had a straight line, circle, straight line, another straight line, and a square, please draw a semicircle. Who is this woman? Why is she taking us back to kindergarten? I know, I sense those thoughts. Okay, now I want you to draw a triangle. She knows shapes, so she's just saying them out loud. Okay, last one. I want you to draw 2 dots. Okay, folks, pens down. So merciful. Pens down. And please hold up your drawings. Folks that are online, if you could turn on your video and hold up your drawing to the screen. And folks that are offline, I am going to annoy my friend Laurelyn to walk around the room and just sort of suss out the images we have there. Folks, if you've got your video backgrounds blurred and you're holding up your images before me, I am only going to see the blur. So please indulge me and either hold it up right next to the camera or just change your background. Okay, wonderful. Some amazing drawings online. I think we have fabulous artists. And half of Imad's face, also a fabulous artist, but that works. Okay, while we're waiting for folks offline to have their drawings checked out by Professor Laurelyn, I'd love for all of you to just take a look at each other's drawings online, okay? Brilliant, wow, that is so kind of you, Imad, thank you. So amazing. Loving all the drawings. We have such amazing artists, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you folks see a trend emerging? No 2 drawings are the same. I mean, the shapes are the same, but the big picture that it's all assembling, they're not the same, right? We see some horizontal shapes, we see the shapes all over the place, we see the shapes in different forms. Nice, thank you all. I'm just gonna give this a moment so Imad captures as many and then we'll move on. But in the meantime, if there are others online that haven't had a chance to show off their artistic skills, bring it on. Brilliant. Thank you so much for indulging me and for drawing this. Oh, that was nice. It's like a game of hangman. Neat. How are you all drawing your lines so straight? Like the times I used to do this, even this much of a line just went all over the place.
We've got some that looks like Morse code, some that belongs in a gallery.
Amazing. I mean, I think all of it belongs in a gallery, to be fair. It's fabulous that everybody's got such skills. Folks, go back to your LinkedIn and say drawing skills after this session. I will endorse you for it. Personally, I will endorse you for it. Yeah, you get digital drawing skills as well, my friend. Nice. Are we a backbencher? Okay, I noticed a backbencher. Very rebellious. Cool. Okay, thank you so much for indulging me. But quickly, before I hand it back to Hafsa, what do you think was going on? Was I testing your skills? Was I a secret recruiter trying to get you to like my space program or something? What was going on? Definitely not second, but yeah. Folks, offline, online, any thoughts what this was all about? And folks online, you're welcome to also leave your message on chat. Perspectives, nice, Jaspreet, thank you for that. I stunned everyone into silence. That everyone is unique.
Directions are the same, but everyone's understanding is different, how we understand and how we are looking at the picture, but the directions were same.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm seeing that everybody is somewhat dovetailing to the same thing, but here are some things I'd like for you to think about. When I gave you my instructions, I said, you're just going to do this based on what you understand, right? I never told you that you can't ask me questions. I never told you that you can't ask each other questions. I never told you that you can't ask me exactly what I was asking you to draw, which by the way, was actually a stick figure of a girl inside a frame that in my imagination is a computer screen. If you want to know a fun fact, when we did this activity while prepping, Hafsa beheaded the girl. Sorry, Hafsa, I just had to say that. Jokes aside, the point here was when we're engaging online, we're always consuming information. That information need not necessarily be good for us, useful for us, or information that we need to act on. So the onus falls on us as information consumers to verify, to authenticate, to understand who's behind producing this information, to make sure that when we produce information, we can be equally mindful so that there is no misinterpretation of it all. It also speaks very deeply to a gendered experience, because when you're sitting on the internet, the anonymity that two computers offers with yards of cyberspace in between makes us vulnerable to violence. So when we present ourselves online or we present information online, navigating cyberspace becomes a very complex experience. Keeping it safe for ourselves and for others is one part of the picture, but also stepping up to make sure that we are not producing harm is an equal responsibility that we owe. So when we talk about OGBV, it's important to be mindful of impact over intent. What are we producing? What is our engagement producing? And what is another person's engagement producing on us? And how can we equip ourselves to respond to it, to prevent it for others, and to be a meaningful ally? Our toolkit has resources that you can use no matter where you are on the spectrum. If you're a survivor, there are resources for you. If you're somebody trying to learn about it in a policy capacity or in a work or a techpreneur capacity, we have information for you. And if you're a bystander who's just keen on making the internet a safe space, we have something for you there as well. So on that note, I'm really grateful to have seen all of you engage with this activity. I hope it's given you food for thought, if not anything else. But for now, Hafsa, take it away.
Thank you, Kirti, for taking us through that fun activity. Definitely took me back to when we were doing it. And thank you to all our participants on site and online engaging with us. We appreciate it very much. So I want to actually highlight our toolkit is not stagnant. It's a living and breathing toolkit. So we are always looking to update it. So actually it takes me to our next activity, which we are again going to have an interesting activity where you can actually contribute directly to the toolkit, because this is a toolkit for young people by young people. So we are actually, for the online participants, we're going to share a Jamboard link here. And here what we're going to do is you can share your recommendations for different stakeholders, which can be governments, private sector organizations, tech companies, civil society, law enforcement agencies, general public, and as an individual, what are your recommendations to tackle OGBV? So you can include them as sticky notes on the Jamboard link that we are going to put in the chat. And I will hand it over to Laura to take the instructions to our on-site participants. Yes, definitely, Sonia. This is not just OGBV, it's experienced by all sorts of people.
Okay, so for those offline, you should have papers with you. You can use those to individually put in your suggestions for solutions to different stakeholders. So they could be, you know, feminist technopreneurs, people in government, and we will add those into our evolving toolkit. And leave them with us when you're done. Take about 2 minutes or 3 minutes if you can.
So yes, Reshma, so you can add in any recommendation. What would you want government to do in terms of tackling OGBV? What would you want private sector to do in terms of tackling OGBV? What are your suggestions and recommendations as an individual? So what we are hoping to do is, once you put in your suggestions and recommendations, we will collate it as an addendum and add it to the toolkit. It can be for tech innovators, it can be for civil society, it can be for law enforcement agencies. What do you think would actually help to tackle OGBV in terms of interventions or support? It can be in terms of prevention, can be any focus area. Hope this helped. If anyone has any questions, do let us know.
Yes, so you're all essentially, you know, we're crowdsourcing solutions from online and offline, and it's going to be, you're essentially co-creating with us for this evolving toolkit.
I think to those who are using Jamboard the first time, I'll quickly tell. So you can click the sticky note right below the cursor sign on the left column, and then a sticky note will pop in. You can type in your recommendation or suggestion, and then just click done. Then it will get saved. You can add as many as you like.
When you're doing this also, do let us know which stakeholder you're recommending this solution to.
We are actually receiving a lot of interesting recommendations on the Jamboard.
I love the work of the 30 for 2030. See, always looking for input from everyone and anywhere they are. Crowdsourcing is their secret word. Co-designing, they're thinking together. And it's an invitation to also people who are here, if you'd like to join the 30 for 2030. We have the application open all year long. It's a very thorough process to get part of that network, but it is potential. They're always looking for amazing people, creative, passionate, feminist. If you have new ideas, please, join that community. Tomorrow or the next few days, we're announcing the new cohort for this year, but we're still opening spaces for more people to join. You can keep writing those recommendations, and I advise you to, whenever you think of something that we haven't thought of or it's mentioned in the toolkit, please share it with the team. With this session and that activity, I'd love to thank Laurelyn, Kriti, and Hafsa, and all the 30 for 2030 for the amazing work that they do, and keeping that toolkit growing and getting wilder to be also in use. As they said, they designed it by them for other use, so feel free to use it, utilize it. We had so many other organizations and groups who have been taking some of the content. You can use some of it, you can use all of it, can build on it. It's open source, as they always say, but also give them feedback if you use it by any means, if you have better ways on delivering training, so they can also share that knowledge with everyone. Thank you so much. We'll take a minute or two to stretch before we jumping into the next session, which is one of the exciting sessions. It tells the story of emergencies and crisis and the situation of women and how emergencies are also gendered. They are selective, and mostly women are subject to more of the consequences whenever there's a human-based emergency or a natural emergency. Even nature is cruel to women and girls, but not just nature, it's just how we respond to those emergencies and how it's sometimes enlarge the gaps in inequality and also provide more threats to the safety of women and girls. So the next session after the break, we'll have Sneha with us to tell us about what big data is telling us about emergencies on human response. How we as humans, even as millions of us, we still are, big data can predict how we react and how those consequences affect women and girls. Maybe big data can teach us one thing about emergencies and what we can prepare for. So it's an exciting session, lots of visuals and graphs to be looking forward to. So we'll take just 2 minutes to stretch. Just get up, do a stretch, get some water and come back. I promise you there's more fun sessions after that. Thank you. 2 minutes. Don't go so far.
And if you have your papers, you can just pass it over to me here.
Yes.
Thank
We
you.
also want to have a space you can talk to the speakers at the end, and to build your network and huh?
UN Women as a statistics analyst, and I will be walking you through some of the findings that have come up from a recent study that we've done on looking at the complex associations between violence against women and disasters and crisis events. Understanding that violence against women and girls is not an easy topic, and intend to add complications to it. We're also now looking at violence related trends and mapping that against crisis events. So this is an attempt. Big data is not devoid of its limitations. So we would address that very, very upfront as well. Happy to take any questions towards the end. Okay. So we know that crisis-induced stressors are linked to violence against women. We also know that crisis events make it really difficult for us to conduct conventional face-to-face data collection exercises. So here comes big data, which is just a way to tackle both those issues and to kind of fill the gaps and generate evidence on violence against women in times of crisis. At UN Women, we've done some of this work in Asian countries. That's the report that is publicly available. I encourage you to engage with it. And we have developed some specialized surveys in the past, looking at the effects of COVID-19, right, on violence related trends, prevalence, that sort of thing. In today's presentation, I'm going to take you through some of the findings from the Pacific Island countries. These are small island developing countries, smaller population. Penetration rates for internet are also low. So just for us to keep those things in mind when we look at the findings, right? The questions we're asking is, are people using online spaces to search for violence-related information more often during and after times of crisis? Are people looking for help online more often during and after times of crisis? Those are some of the questions we started with. Again, to make it clear, this is not violence prevalence. We are unable to measure that through this kind of analysis. But what we are trying to measure is trends on violence-related searches just as a proxy indicator. So again, not looking at violence prevalence, okay? Please don't freak out if this looks like a crazy slide. This is just talking about the methodology real quick to what this analysis was. And we as the stats people love the methods part of things. I'll keep it short though. So where did we do this analysis? In 4 countries in the Pacific Islands, Kiribati, Samoa, Solomon Islands, and Tonga. What was the time period for this analysis? We did this through a 2-year period. So June 2020 all the way to June 2022. What are some of the peak crisis events we were interested in? So during these 2 years, these countries were not just experiencing COVID-19 as a crisis, but a lot of overlapping environmental crises, such as floodings, cyclones, volcanic eruptions, drought episodes even, and some political unrest. So we're interested in mapping search on violence against these peak periods of interest. What is the data source here? So think of this as a 2-layered study. First part is that we're looking at Google searches. We're simply seeing what are people typing on Google. We all use Google all the time. We're always looking up for information, help, etc. So we're just trying to see the insights on what are people typing on Google with regards to violence, right? Secondly, we're looking at social media. So this is the more qualitative leg of this analysis, where we're trying to see what is the online discourse on violence against women on platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok to some extent. Now, don't get lost on this slide again. Just simply put, when you search for a keyword, say violence, Google is going to give you a bunch of results, right? People can be searching for anything, right? So how do we know this is violence-related search? Because that's the point of the study. We looked at all the domestic and health, demographic and health surveys. We looked at some of the specialized violence surveys. We translated some of those keywords into local language because also we want to understand the local context of these countries. And we did a comprehensive literature review to understand social and discriminatory norms around violence against women. So that basically gave a list of over 1,200 keywords. Now, what are we doing? We're putting these keywords into a tool, a search analysis tool that does this job for us, right? So it generates search volume. So if I put the term domestic violence, how many people search for it during a certain time period? If I look up domestic violence helpline, how many people search for that term during a peak period, right? So we're classifying the keywords as types of violence. So are people looking at physical violence, sexual violence, psychological violence? And are people looking more specifically at help? Are people typing domestic helpline, domestic violence helpline, or women's children and children's support center near me? Are they looking at that kind of information, right? So that's just what this crazy graph is trying to tell you. This is even crazier. These are just the findings, and I'll walk you through those. We're looking at the findings for Samoa, okay? And we're looking at the total violence-related search volume in Samoa for those 2 years of time period, right? So to the very left on the x-axis, at the horizontal axis, you have June 2020, right? And it goes all the way to June 2022. So that's 2 years. On the y-axis, the vertical line, we have the total search volume. This is produced as a monthly average. That's why you see one data point for each month. And you can also see that there's some things written on the top, like heavy rains causing floods, because December 2020 was the time when Samoa experienced heavy floods and landslides. They also held general elections in April 2021. They also went through a long period of La Niña, which are erratic weather patterns. Towards 2021 and 2022, which is when the Pacific Island countries were really experiencing the peak of COVID-19, you'll see that there's nationwide lockdowns. They were also given tsunami and volcanic eruption alerts, because if some of you followed the news, Tonga experienced volcanic eruption and tsunami during that period of time. And there's also periods of COVID-19 lockdown. What the hell? That's too much. Okay, so we have the timeline, we have the search volume, we have the peak periods of interest. What are we finally looking at? This line right here, right? Do you see a lot of fluctuation in the line? We see some dips and we see some peaks. We're interested in understanding why there are peaks. Why are suddenly people searching for online violence-related information online? Is it random? Few things happen randomly. In the bigger world order, if there's something that's significantly changing, there has to be a reason, and we're interested in the reason, right? We're also interested in seeing why there are peaks and what can we do about it. So we'll see that during the December 2020 floods, there was a dip in violence searches right here. Does that mean that suddenly Samoa has become a violence-free country and people aren't interested in that issue anymore and they're not searching online? Or rather that those floods and landslides cause internet disruptions, power outages, where people could no longer use the internet to search for those information. We do see that search volume starts recovering once the country has recovered from those floodings. So again, why are the peaks there? We know that crisis-induced stressors are linked with increases in violence against women. So those trends are interesting to us. With big data, it's not possible to say that this is exactly the reason why we're seeing it. Also, correlation is not equal to causation. So we can't say, oh, floods lead to increased episodes of violence. But we do see some interesting trends that are worth acknowledging. So 3 minutes, right? Okay. So that's basically the idea behind, and we share the slides with you. You'll have more time to engage with the findings. We also saw that people were searching for sexual violence related terms more often than psychological violence and physical violence, which may again point us to asexual violence, a taboo topic. Do people find online spaces safer to search for that kind of information? And this was true across all countries. We also saw that people were seeking help online. So people were typing terms like help near me, domestic violence centers, Kiribati police service, that sort of thing. Same thing for across countries, and you'll have more time to engage. We also did the qualitative assessment, right? How are people engaging online on these topics? So this varied by country, but in Kiribati, 40% of the social media posts that were related to violence against women were talking about NGO support for war victims. Just again, an insight into how social media is being utilized by users and service providers on that issue, which tells us that this is a powerful platform we have, not devoid of its limitations and risks. We have to be careful with the findings, but people are using these spaces. So how can we enable them? In Tonga, there was a lot of engagement around religion, tradition, and CEDAW. So those are, again, insights worth focusing on. A lot of the people on those social media posts were calling for a change, injustice, that sort of thing. Misogyny, victim blaming, and misconceptions also made up a chunk of the social media posts on these issues. Finally, we also looked at violence against women and girls service providers online. So again, service providers would be NGOs, CSOs, or government partners who have an online presence, and people, victims and survivors of violence, can actually reach out to them. So what did we find? People who were engaging more often with certain service providers was because these service providers were helping them more proactively. They were making violence-related helpline information very, very easily available on their website or on their social media handle. They were working directly with the government, and they were really raising awareness and making it easy for victims and survivors to approach them. We have great examples from all these 4 countries where we have service providers who sort of focus on a proactive approach, made sure that their posts presented a more welcoming and affiliative sentiment, because this comes out of sentiment analysis, which was conducted for these posts. And they held a lot of online counseling sessions, made private messaging features readily available for people. So, you can be discreet and reach out to them without feeling like your identity is going to be revealed. Just towards the very end, we also saw that some service providers received very low engagement from users. High engagement would mean that people are liking your post, commenting on them, reposting them. Low engagement would be that people really aren't visiting your website. So what is a lesson that service providers can take out of this study? Is to really make it people friendly and open up and proactively approach people and users, to maybe move away from a self-promotional focus to rather being available for people and how they can be helped. And finally, also search engine optimization. This morning, I was typing just to check. I typed domestic violence helpline, and I was taken to a UK website. Do you see the problem there? That's not helpful for me. So I would rather have to type domestic violence helpline near me. And it still didn't take me there. And then I typed domestic violence helpline in Thailand, and then I could see some of the Bangkok specific service providers. Just to say that, is there a chance for service providers to increase their search optimization strategies and outreach to kind of better reach people who need help? I'm going to stop there. Happy to take any questions and clarifications separately, because I know we're running out of time. So thank you so much for your attention, and apologies if this was too heavy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sneha. For a lot of people who struggle with numbers, I think you did a great job in trying to visualize it and make sense of all of this big data results. We're always hoping that this data could be also helpful to us to prepare for the next crisis, which seems that is happening more often than before, with climate change, with conflicts. All of this crisis is becoming like more global than any of our previous limited emergencies and crises. And most of the time we see those kind of trends during emergencies. It happens in every emergency. So I think for the next emergency, we have what sciences are telling us to do and what to take care. And I think there's so many good recommendations here for everyone, whether working as a service provider or a policymakers or designing programs, or you're just part of the community who's dealing with the response to those emergencies. Is there any burning questions? Because we're gonna move to another exciting session. Okay, so you can email us. There's gonna be, that study is gonna be out soon. Amazing. You're one of the first to actually see these results. And stay tuned to the actual study on our website and social media. And know that there's an amazing team working on making sense of all of those numbers that will bring you more exciting findings. For our next session, we're jumping into another area of technology that, you know, we deal with it every day, but we never know how gendered it is. And it's coming more often now. It's like, you know, scrolling in social media and seeing like, oh, this website is using AI to cook for you, to sing for you, or to do this and that. And AI becoming the trending technology that is out there to take us to the internet 3.0 or 4. I think is like, we're thinking about AI as the next revolution of technology, or the natural evolution of technology and us. But the same standard who built the internet before, mostly men, designing everything for men, they also building on those kind of inherited technology that is biased, most of the time not inclusive. And we're getting a glimpse today of the AI and gender equality. So our colleague Alexandra, I'll let you introduce yourself and the topic, so I'm not going to take that much of your time.
Thank you so much, Imad. I think you did an excellent job just outlining some of the key questions that we're working on. So my name is Alexandra, or Alex, and I am working with the UN Women's Regional Office here. I'm working as a governance, peace, and security analyst, so I'm not necessarily a technical expert in AI, but in our peace work, we have seen that technologies are being used more and more, both to fuel conflict, but that they also carry potential to build peace. So that is the angle that I will be talking about AI and gender today. So on the regional level, we have we have a project which we call Women, Peace and Cybersecurity, where we are working on addressing cybersecurity issues within the context of women's leadership in peace building processes. And as part of this program, we're looking at how gender, peace, and AI interlink. So what I will share with you today is just some initial findings that we have been doing in a literature review on the topic that's available, on the knowledge that's available on the topic. So currently we're conducting our own research on this, and we are hoping to release the findings of this in a few months. But these are just some initial trends that we have seen across the region, but also globally. But before we go into the topic, I feel like it's late in the afternoon. We've been hearing a lot of presentations. So we're going to start with having a little quiz to see who is the gender and AI expert. So you can scan the QR code on the screen, or you can go to menti.com and type the code 33244819. Is it okay? Yay. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if this works. Oh, wow. Okay. We have 25, 26 players ready. Let's have a few more seconds for people to join. Okay. A lot of nice little emojis. Oh, someone left. Okay. I see 57 people online. I only see 31 people in the quiz. Please join by typing the code above. Yes, we still have some people joining. Swedish flag. Okay, I think we can start and then people can join in as we go through the questions. Okay, so first question. What is artificial intelligence? You'll get a few different options here. So the use of computers to automatically generate text and images, automated systems that can make predictions and recommended actions, data systems that allow robots to conduct new tasks, or all of the options above. Yes, a lot of you got this one right. So we see that, I mean, AI is very broad technology, right? And it can indeed capture all these different functions. And according to the Organization for the Economic Cooperation and Development, artificial intelligence is a machine-based system that can, for a set of given human-defined objectives, make predictions, recommendations, or decisions influencing real or virtual environments. Question 2. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, fast on the buttons. 35 plays ready. Okay, second question. Artificial intelligence is used to tailor online advertisement, inform military and defense operations, and program facial and voice recognition systems, or all of the listed options. Yes, we have some great AI experts here today. So the correct answer is that all of these things apply. So artificial intelligence is found in everyday technologies such as our phones. You know, when you use Siri, Alexa, all of that is powered by artificial intelligence. But we also see that these technologies are used to an increasing extent when it comes to military operations and surveillance, for example. Yeah. Question 3. Yeah. Okay, machines are non-emotional, therefore decisions made by computers using AI are free from bias. I think we all know this one by now, listening to the other speakers. Have some answers coming in. Okay. Yes, and most of you got this one right. So we might think that computers, since they have no emotions, they should be logical beings, right? But in fact, when we look at AI, we have to remember that all of these technologies are actually designed by human beings, and therefore the bias that we have as people might also be reflected in these technologies. I have one more question. Yes. So what is the estimated share of women working on AI development globally? So we have 11%, 20%, 52%, and 67%. Okay, it's actually, and caveating that there are a lot of different numbers on this, the most commonly used number to measure this is approximately 20%, but it's a bit difficult to say exactly how representative this is across the global labor market. However, we see that women in leadership positions in these companies is lower. You can go back. Oh, wait, actually, oh, we have leaderboard as well. We can see who won. Wait, if you go back to the Menti. Wow, okay. So here we have the top 10 participants. Some really good points. Okay, Matthew. Congratulations, big applause. I think you're our gender and AI expert.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Thanks. Okay, so based on the literature review that we have conducted, we see that there's a lot of gender and racial biases across a lot of the AI technologies that we may find in our everyday technologies, such as facial recognition. For example, we see that facial recognition systems are less likely to recognize women, and they're also more likely to misclassify women of color. And the least misclassified group is white men, which is not that surprising. We also see that available voice recognition systems are 70% more likely to correctly caption men's voices compared to women's. So we do see that there are huge gender biases here. So the reason for these biases are not necessarily ill intent, right? But they can often be explained by bias data or a lack of data overall. For instance, we see that women have less access to internet globally, and we also see that the majority of internet users are from North America and from Europe. So we see that women, and especially women from sub-Saharan Africa and Asia and the Pacific, are underrepresented in online spaces, and they therefore leave less data points on their activities online. We have seen several examples of, for example, chat robots being designed to learn how to communicate with people based on the prompts that people give them. So this is a machine learning technique. However, after being operational for some time, many of these robots did start generating sexist and racist responses because this was the type of information that was actually fed into them by their users. So they learned these poor behaviors. Although there's still limited research on the topic, we can also see similar trends in AI-generated art, which I think was had a huge viral attention last year and this year as well. And while these accounts are still anecdotal, several women have come out to say that they have actually been sexualized by generating this art, by feeding in their portraits, and as an output, they have gotten explicit content of themselves, even though they didn't ask of this from the system. But the system just pulled from imagery on women from online and assumed that this was what this person wanted. So to illustrate just how these biases can look like, this is just the results of an AI-powered image generator that I used. And for the top screenshot, I used the prompt violent person. And for the bottom one, I used peaceful person. And as you can see, the difference in the results is quite striking. So these images are all like AI generated, right? So the computer has created this based on my prompt. And this is not really painting a picture of what reality is, right? But it may say something about the prejudice that we have or the norms that we tie to men versus women. And while this observation is in line with anecdotal evidence, it's important that we actually look at this a bit closer and do robust research on these biases to better understand how the algorithms behind them work. Okay. As I mentioned before, we see that ICT and AI are increasingly used to facilitate military interventions and surveillance, which has given rise to severe ethical concerns. For example, we have technologies such as automated lethal weapons, which are also informed by AI technologies. And these may, in the same way as the technologies that I mentioned before, also carry gender bias. Based on the fact that these can make independent decisions on which groups of people to target, it's something that is worth discussing on a broader level. AI is also designed to present users with tailored content based on their personal preferences. So research has shown that this can lead to the creation of digital echo chambers in which a person's opinion might not be challenged as they're only exposed to the content that they prefer to see. Such echo chambers may create fruitful environments for violent extremism and radicalization, and it's exacerbating issues such as online disinformation and hate speech. Echo chambers have, for example, been identified as one of the key drivers in the emergence of incel culture, which is commonly characterized by misogyny, homophobia, and racism, and it has provoked violent hate crimes, murder of women, and sexual violence. In addition to AI-generated text and images, we see that deepfakes are also becoming increasingly common. So a deepfake commonly refers to a video in which a person has had their face or body digitally altered so that they appear to be someone else. And this is typically used maliciously or to spread false information. I'm just gonna show you an example, and I think that most of you have seen this video by now.
I'm going to show you some magic. It's the real thing. I mean, it's all the real thing.
So is this the real thing? Is this really Tom Cruise performing magic tricks on TikTok? No, right? But it looks pretty convincing. So this is actually an impersonator who has used the deepfake technology to put Tom Cruise's face over his own in this video. And this is just an example of what you can do with deepfake technology. And while this might be quite a harmless example, like it's made for fun, right? Imagine what would happen, for example, if you use it to alter a statement from a politician. What would happen if you use it in a volatile context, such as in a conflict? So for example, in the Ukraine conflict, we actually saw that there was a deepfake produced by deepfake film of Zelensky, where he encouraged Ukrainian troops to lay down their arms. And therefore, it was spread in an attempt to weaken the Ukrainian defense. So when we look at the gender angle, we see that deepfakes have been used to target women extensively, particularly women in public positions, such as women politicians, women journalists, women human rights defenders. And this is usually done by somehow inputting these women into pornographic material. And this has created severe lashback for the people who have been subjected to this. And as some other speakers mentioned before, these acts have led women to leave their positions or to disengage completely. And it's therefore a huge impact on gender equality, women's rights, but also civic freedoms in general. Um, okay, so while AI powered systems are riddled with numerous risks, they can also carry potential. And I think that what Sneha spoke about before is like, it's an important example of how big data can be used, right? But what happens if we, for example, could use automated systems to analyze this data and to give us prompt responses? So we have seen that the AI carries the potential to quickly identify trends across big sections of data, which has made it easier to analyze conflicts and shifts in conflict dynamics. For instance, numerous AI systems are currently being used to analyze the real-time spread of disinformation, hate speech, and manipulated images. And these outcomes are later used to inform journalists, election monitors, and human observers of these trends. We also see that social media is a crucial tool for peace builders and women peace builders in particular. And it's used to mobilize support, mobilize resources, and to otherwise connect and disseminate information. However, gaps in gender-responsive content moderation that's available in local languages, and laws that adequately respond to the use of these technologies to silence individuals is lagging behind. And these issues are, of course, exacerbated by the critical underrepresentation of women in these decision-making fields. So on that, there's just a few recommendations here that I'm happy to share with you through the PowerPoint slide. We also have a brief where we have outlined some of our work on these issues and just identifying some of the general trends that are important to consider in the intersection between gender, peace, and AI. So if you find this interesting, I would encourage you to go in and have a look. And please also stay tuned for our upcoming research on this topic, which will delve a bit deeper into these dynamics. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexandra. That was amazing. I think that's a new sector that we're lately jumping into. So there is a lot of space for all of you to dig deeper into that sector and help us navigate through those kind of trending technology and how can we include more women and girls in the design itself, which this session will take us to the next one on conscious design, of how can we make sure that those mistakes in the design of things that we use in our daily life is actually inclusive and not harmful and not following the gender stereotypes that we have been building through history. And to help us with all of those recommendations, we are delighted to have Rhea from Girls Who Love Text to actually help us navigate into that space of conscious design. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's been a long day, so let's all maybe stand up and just like wave a little and re-energize ourselves. We're going to be tackling an important issue today. We've spoken a lot about some of the challenges that women and girls face when we start to incorporate them and integrate them into the digital space. And we need to tackle about the opportunities, right? And how we could not only address these things, but prevent and preempt some of these problems. At She Loves Tech, we are on a mission to solve the funding gap for female tech entrepreneurs. We do this by running the world's largest startup competition for women, currently in over 70 countries across 6 continents. We also have built Asia's flagship conference for women in technology, where we have invited where people from all over the world can discover the latest technologies built by women alongside industry leaders, Nobel Peace Prize winners, and visionaries who are building for the future. Ultimately, we founded She Loves Tech because we believe that women are an entire new generation of ideas talent, and they are empowered by technology changing the way we work and live. Ultimately, women and technology is key to solving some of our greatest challenges. So, conscious innovation, when you hear or read these two words, what does everyone think? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Anyone? What do you all think? How's it different from just innovation? Accessible. Okay. Another one? Okay, logical. You're more conscious, you're more aware, right? Maybe. Yeah. Okay, less creative. That's what you're saying, less creative. Okay, I'll leave you all to mull over that a little bit, and let's circle back at the end of this. Personally, when I think about innovation, right, moonshot thinking is the first thing that comes to mind. Moonshot thinking was coined earlier, a few years ago, by Google, specifically their X Factory, right? This is where they experiment and they introduce a lot of innovation and new products and technologies, and more than the ones that we know, right? More than the search engine and more than the phones and so on. And really what it's trying to tell us and teaching us is, you know, you need to set and aim for very ambitious and audacious goals when you're innovating, right? When you're innovating, you don't just want to make incremental changes, but you want to aim for 10x, right? You want to better everything in 10x, not just 10%. And we all know we are living in the fourth industrial revolution, right? We're in the midst of technology, innovation left and right, everything that we use, wake up, sleep, everything, you know, everything around us is technology. We're highly digital. But if innovation is really helping us live better lives, if it's supposed to help us live better lives, it begs the question, are we really solving, you know, the real problems and challenges that we're all facing today? These are just some of the SDGs that the UN have put forward, right? And so, you know, technology by nature is exponential, right? It builds on itself, right? It makes changes faster than the change before it. So we really need to think about the types of technologies that we put out into the world, right? The types of technologies that we are building. Otherwise, new problems could emerge. I used to live in China and I experienced the entire technology boom, right? We went from paying in cash to a completely cashless society. Everyone was on their phones. You don't have to bring anything else. And it was very efficient, probably not as tourist friendly. When people come, they don't know how to pay anymore. Even the street vendors accept in cash. You have people who seek donation on the street. They have a QR code for you to scan, right? Everything is cashless. But what about the unbanked, right? What if you don't have a phone? What if you don't have access to the internet? What about these people? This is one startup in the She Loves Tech community. It's an Indonesian startup, and basically they have created a payment solutions for the unbanked, right? She realized earlier on that there are a lot of people in this world, in developing countries, that do not have bank accounts, first of all. And a lot of the digital and payment solutions nowadays require you to bind it to a bank account. Second thing is, a lot of them don't have access to the internet. So how are you going to be able to use these apps if you don't have access to the internet? You also don't have mobile phones in a lot of these places, right? So what happens then? So she created a payment solutions that allow people who are not connected to use their faces, activating mom and pop shops in the rural areas to be able to allow, you know, people, a lot of them women, to conduct and transact, right? You just go to this mom and pop corner shop and they scan your face, and you can pay and receive money. During the pandemic, the government has worked with them to distribute aid, for example, right? So when we think about problems and when we think about innovations, are we thinking about the full picture, right? Are we solving problems or creating more problems? See, is another startup from the She Loves Tech community. They're Korean based. And earlier we were talking about gender violence and, a lot of like the cultural challenges that women face across, society. And sexual health and sexual wellness, it's very much part of our health, as much as other things, right? But in many places of the world, it's still considered taboo. And the primary reason why that is the case, because it's a very male-dominated industry. If you think about sexual health and sexual wellness, probably you think about that corner in the groceries that's selling you perhaps condoms or things like that. But you don't realize that it's more than that, first of all. Second of all, even those particular products are actually being used by women, correct? But then how come the entire supply chain, from the innovator to the marketers to the ads, everything is all related to men? So Ji-won, the founder of Save, decided to change that, right? She decided to look into how these products are made. Is it good for women? Right? If only men are designing these products and only men are buying these products and they are dictating how we use these products, what about women who actually have to use these products too, right? When she started her journey, she was faced with suppliers who didn't believe that this was going to work out. Like they didn't want to take her contract because number one, they think that she's going to fail just because she's a woman. But second of all, because they don't think that, actually she's also kind of telling them that what they're doing is not correct. But over time, she has managed to educate them. She's managed to change and disrupt the entire supply chain that even these suppliers who are creating products for other companies have decided to produce and provide different types of materials when building the other products. When we look around here, right, everything is something that's manufactured somewhere by someone we don't know, right? Naturally, when we live and go through the world, sometimes we forget that we take everything for granted, right? There's lights here, there's this floor, there's everything. But someone is building these things, right? And they're being built somewhere else. But you don't really think about the manufacturing and how things are produced and who are producing these products. And when we think about innovation, we're constantly on the go, trying to build the latest and the next types of technologies. But what about the people building it, right? Can we also serve them? Not only to make the supply chain more efficient, but to make it more human, more transparent, right? Actually, when you think about cost, and this is where ESG, and I'm not going to go into it, right? People always ask, why do we need to think about sustainability? Because it affects the entire logistic chain, right? It's not just doing good, but actually it can also bring commercial returns. How many companies in the world actually risk a lot of rising expenses in hiring simply because they cannot take care of their employees? And speaking of manufacturing, we talk about waste. There's only 7.9 billion people in the world, but guess how much, how many phones exist in the world right now at this moment? And it just increases over time, right? I think around 6 billion phones are currently, being used and circulated in the world right now. And they continue to manufacture each year. And on average, people change their phones in 2-3 years. What happens after that? Companies build and manufacture phones to sell you, but they don't really think about the closed loop system. What happens after, right? There are a lot of things, a lot of toxic materials and harmful materials in the phones that are just being thrown in landfills. Again, I go back to my question earlier. When we innovate, are we solving things? Are we creating solutions, or are we creating more problems? At She Loves Tech, we have amassed, the largest database of female tech founders. And a few years ago, I remember Deloitte actually writing a report about successful leadership in the fourth industrial revolution. And when I thought about it, immediately, the first thing that came to mind was that a lot of these qualities can be seen in a lot of our female founders. And one was glaringly at the forefront, and that is that they're all committed to doing good. They all have a shared commitment to doing good and leading with impact first. And for many, a lot of these entrepreneurs, this has allowed them to build products that are not only societally driven, but also new revenue streams have emerged. It's all commercially responsible and, sorry, not commercially responsible, rather, it brings a lot of commercial returns in that process as well. because that's why, that's why we're building businesses. That's how business should be, right? If you're solving a real need, a challenge for the world, then that's already one step closer to success, right? We shouldn't build products for the sake of building products. And statistically, women tend to create and build businesses out of need and out of challenges they've faced themselves, rather than because suddenly technology allows them to do so. So what can we learn from female entrepreneurs? What makes them different? What can we learn about conscious innovation from these women? This is arguably one of my favorite quotes, right? If you want to be a billionaire, help a billion people, right? Find $1 billion problem or a billion person problem, if you will. But, we want to go and dig deeper a little bit, right? Yes, we have to find a billion people problem, but which problem? Which problem is worth it, right? Which problem is worth solving, and how do you actually solve it? Earlier I spoke about moonshot thinking, and really when you think about moonshot thinking, it's not just about aiming high, right? It's not about aiming high. It's understanding that we're living in a fast transforming world that requires a lot of fast thinking, yes, and audacious goals and ambitions, yes. But at the same time, it's also recognizing that there are a lot of people in the world experiencing a lot of things, multiple things, complex things, and all of them are facing a lot of great challenges. And we need to take a human-centered approach when we innovate. So the first thing, right? Of course, these are just a few steps to get started, but the first thing is to solve a real problem. As I mentioned, you need to find a large enough problem, right, to solve. But not just any large problem. Large problems that have the potential to change and create significant social impact, social, economic, and environmental impact, so to say, right? When you are solving a real problem, you want to really go down to the ground and listen to the people and see what they are experiencing themselves and what you are experiencing yourselves as well. If in doubt, ask yourself, what is that one thing that you're sick and tired of, right? We all complain every day. But what if you just take that moment to think, okay, yeah, I've been complaining about this for such a long time. Who else is complaining about this, right? Who else is being impacted by this problem? And why is it important to solve this problem? And that may be the first step to identify what problem you would want to solve. And after you have identified that problem that you want to solve, for a lot of people, it's very tempting to jump straight into solutions. But actually, I would say like women entrepreneurs, at the crux of all of this is that they focus on problems and not solutions, right? And this may sound counterintuitive, but really, when you're talking about problems, it's not just like a straight line, right? Problem, solution. Problems require us, when you're looking and trying to address problems, it requires us to look at the entire holistic nature of that problem, looking at the root cause of that problem, looking at the various interdependencies of that problem, the various feedback loops of that problem. If you look at this problem holistically, then not only will you not miss out on any opportunities there, right? Again, with the unbanked example, right? People just set out to create digital solutions for people who are connected, but they completely forgot that majority of people in the world are actually not connected. At the same time, you can also prevent and preempt any negative consequences. Just the other day, one of my team members was complaining to me and was just saying how public transport in Singapore is so expensive. And I just moved to Singapore. So I don't have any point of comparison, but she was saying that it was all caused by all of the apps that we have right now, right? Because of these apps, suddenly you cannot just go out and grab a car, first of all. You have to wait for a long time. It took her like an hour to get to where we needed to, just because she couldn't get a car. And she has to pay like a lot of money and you don't have other choices, right? And I'm sure, when these founders and innovators started building their products, they didn't set out to cause harm, but they didn't think about it holistically. They didn't realize, oh, okay, this might happen if I do this, right? Because they just thought, okay, I want to solve the problem of transportation. Let's build something to make it more convenient. And finally, following the theme today, you need to embrace equity, right? And specifically, I mean, you need to embrace diversity. With female founders in our pool, at least, over 80% of them have diverse teams. So when women are building teams and product and companies, in fact, they hire diversely as well, right? And it goes without saying that people are all complex, they're all different. They have various experiences and they experience things differently as well. And so you need to form a team that have various coming from various backgrounds, whether that's gender, whether that's country, race, and so on and so forth. And with that, they can come together to continuously challenge each other, right? And that's only when real innovation can really come. Another favorite quote, when women does well, everyone does better. I want to do like a quick exercise with everyone, right? Can we all count to 10? You can do it silently, but that's okay too. So in this 10 seconds, around 400,000 kilograms of food has been thrown away. 10 seconds. But also 3 people died from hunger. Just think about that for a second, right? A third of the food that we produce each year gets thrown away, and yet 10 seconds, 3 people die of hunger. And this is what happens when we don't innovate in this way, when we don't think about, the various unexpected consequences of the things that we do, right? Can you think about the refrigerator, right? It was built, I don't know, in the 18th century. It first started at that time, and it was meant to solve the problem of food spoilage, right? They want to preserve food. They want us to be able to keep food for longer. But actually, it also created this dynamic of people buying more and just storing there and going bad for, that happens to me. I'm also culprit, guilty of this, right? I buy more and then I don't end up cooking any of it and then just throw it away, first of all. So what if someone thought about solving food wastage instead of food spoilage in that regard, right? Instead of just preserving the food, can we solve food wastage when we design the refrigerator, right? It's this kind of shift and position and reframing of problems and looking at all aspects of it, holistic approach, a human-centered approach that really defines conscious innovation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rhea. I think that's also another reminder is when we have more women included in the design, our designs are more sustainable, more human, more about others, more about the community. And that's why we should push for more conscious design. We have only 5 minutes more, so hang in there. Have an exciting guest with us for the next session. One of our partners, representative of the French embassy, yes, and France, co-partner in the generation equality, but also one of the great supporter of gender equality from in Thailand, to tell us more about, generation equality and then also the innovation year. Sebastian.
Thank you so much, Ahmad. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this little bit of attention that you can still maintain for a few minutes. It's a great pleasure to be here today for this boot camp, and I wish you, of course, a very happy International Women's Day. I would like to ask you, who in the room knows Marie Curie, this French-Polish scientist? Quite many people, right? Maybe she won 2 Nobel Prizes in physics and chemistry as early as the 1900s. Who knows, for example, Françoise Barré-Sinoussi? Maybe less people. She actually won the Nobel Prize of Medicine back in the 1980s for the HIV discovery. So these are a few names of French famous scientists, very top level, of course. But even though they're outstanding, they're inspiring, there are still very few. And we've been talking about this the whole day. Major inequalities remain between women and men, especially when we talk about access to science, technology, and innovation. So digital skilling needs to start at school, and actually both for boys and girls, in order to make sure that the students who will enter the workforce will be equipped with the right skills matching the needs of the labor market. So in this regard, the French Ministry of Education has actually just launched a national digital strategy for education for 2023-2027, with a particular focus on girls, actually. And it aims, among other things, to at least double the number of girls studying digital and computer science in high schools. So that's, of course, directly to the related to the topic that we discussed today. Coming more to what has been highlighted by Emad. So you understood France is committed at the national level on this issue, but also internationally with a very resolute feminist diplomacy, as we call it. So back in 2021, we co-organized with UN Women and Mexico the Generation Equality Forum. I don't know if you heard about it before coming here today. It was actually the biggest international event on women's rights since the 1990s. So it was a very, very big event. And it allowed $40 billion of committed investments in favor of gender equality. Sorry, so very, very important. On this occasion, we launched also a 5-year, what we call the Global Acceleration Program, so to foster gender equality. And as I think most of you were here, if not all of you were here this morning, the ambassador of Finland mentioned this action coalition on technology and innovation that worked. So it gathered a few countries, UN agencies, other stakeholders, of course, civil society, private sector representatives, and they worked on specific recommendations on this issue. Just to mention a few of them, the first one is actually to reduce by half this gender digital divide across generations by accelerating meaningful access to digital technologies and universal digital literacy. So all the committers or to take actions on this objective. Second recommendation, to increase investments towards feminist technology, and innovation by 50% to support women's leadership as innovators. And the third one, there are many more, implementing policies and solutions against online and tech facilitated gender-based violence and discrimination. It has been mentioned a lot this afternoon. So indeed, we need to create this safe environment if we want women and girls to be willing to work in these fields. And on the fight against all forms of violence online and cyber harassment, France with some other countries, we adopted last year a joint declaration on the rights of the child in the digital environment. And right now in France, we're actually putting in place a laboratory on childhood protection online. We want to share good practices, we want to encourage research, and also to identify the tools that work, technical, educational, or other kinds of tools. But maybe for what you may be more directly interested, in order to promote the place of women and girls in science, France is really ensuring that parity is preserved for the granting of scholarships, for example. So especially in the research and innovation fields, maybe you heard of the Make Our Planet Great Again program, so scholarships dedicated to environment-related, climate-related research programs. And actually today, 51% of the scholarships that the French government gives goes to women. And I would say only, that's still a lot, but only 41% go to men. The private sector, we heard a lot about it today, and there's also another, I think another speech coming, can also play, of course, a great role to support young women's involvement in what we call STEM studies. So just to take an example, in 2007, maybe you know the French company L'Oréal, I guess, cosmetics company. They launched with UNESCO what we call Young Talents France for Women in Science program. It's a long name, but anyway. As of today, almost 400 grants have been awarded to young doctoral and postdoctoral students. So it's a great involvement also of this, I would say, French company, French private sector. At the bilateral level, because we are here at the UN, but also hosted, in Thailand. So France and Thailand, we've decided to join forces this year to have a 2023 France-Thailand Year of Innovation, because the first motive is actually to change perceptions on both countries. Because if I ask you what you think, what comes to your mind first If you think about France, it's probably luxury goods, it's probably tourism, maybe gastronomy as well. So we want to show also more of our technological solutions, about innovation, about research that is made in France. And a lot is made in Thailand as well. So it's not just, nice beaches, beautiful national parks or whatever, very good food as well, but also a lot of research is made in Thailand. So this special year is actually starting to showcase, to promote this research, to promote connections between researchers, companies, and startups. And also for us, and especially with the theme today, it's also a good opportunity to highlight women in both countries, women researchers. So for example, last January, when we launched the Year of Innovation, we had the honor to welcome here, coming from France, a woman who's called Claudie Aigneret. I don't know if you heard about her before, but she's actually the very first French female astronaut. So she flew in the 1980s, 1990s. And so she was also the first European woman who visited the International Space Station. So top level scientist, very inspiring example for us all, I think. And of course, a bit in advance, but I would like to thank Dr. Sutira as well for her participation today. She's a very good example as well of this collaboration with between France and Thailand. And last but not least, for this Year of Innovation, we look forward to welcome at the end of this year another woman, this time our Minister for Higher Education and Research, so Mrs. Rotaillot. She should be coming for the closing of this Year of Innovation. So as you see, many efforts already underway. I'm sure today's discussion will help us move forward with more solutions on all the issues tackled. I would like to thank again UN Women for your invitation, and I look forward to hearing the outcomes of the whole bootcamp in a few weeks, I guess, or month. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sebastian, for the commitment of the French government. It's also for the embassy and you personally for always being around with us and supporting pushing for gender equality and also sharing more opportunities with us for women and girls in the upcoming period. One last speaker, but not the least, we're gonna go in a very quick hot seat example of startups from like the innovation part, just getting into the practicality of what women leaders on the startup scene are here to share with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Suhiti. Please introduce yourself. And
5 minutes.
Yes.
5 minutes. And I'm like the last person who stopped you with, your your way home. So I'm just going to be quick, but glad to be here. Thank you for the invite. I'm going to go from another angle, from science. We have learned a lot. I have heard a lot about digitals. I'm actually a professor at the university here in Bangkok, Chulalongkorn University. 4 years ago, I found this company called Baya Phytopharm. It is one of the first biotech company in Thailand, like that do pharmas. We do local COVID-19 vaccines here, and we're developing, several like anti-cancers, like several treatment for neglected tropical diseases. And I would like to highlight what you talk about, things that we are doing here at the company. It's actually echo what you're speaking about, and in your talk as well, because our company are women founded, women led it. So I'm a CEO, my co-founder, she's the chief technology officer. So both of us are women's, but it's not like we're gonna just hire women's in our company, because we look for diversity. We look at, we're not looking at genders, but we're looking for people that do tasks that we need, right? But what I would like to highlight is about women in science. That's like very important, and that's what I hold like a place in my heart, because I have a daughter, okay? And I grow up in a family like here in Bangkok, my family, they love me, but I grow up in, a more Chinese, family where, my brother is more like who's gonna own what the families are building. I found a company because I felt like this is something that I would like to found. I'm not looking to give it to my son or my daughter, but I just want to found my company to inspire my kids that, if you have problems and you need to fix it, you need to do it. So that's, science is something, we have been promoting science and women. Sebastian talk about Madame, Marie Curie, scientist, everyone knows Marie Curie. She's a scientist, very famous. Do you even know that the scientist who invented mRNA vaccine is also female? So, 200 years later, female scientists are still doing something different here. So, looking at younger generation in this room, from online as well, I would like to, talk about, coming from a university. I used to thought that, especially if you're a professor in a university in Thailand, I thought that it wasn't a big problem, regarding gender equality, because most professors in the university are females. I don't know why, but when 4 years ago I found this company, okay, I struggled, one time, even though we're one of the fastest biotech startups in the country, first founded, one day there was a professor came to me and say, oh, I thought the CEO would be a guy, older, and leading this company. I was like, what? In this world. So I would still say, like, I thought that that wasn't a problem anymore for me, but found this company, I found that there was a lot of things that we need to fix. How we can access those capitals, running into trying to get money. I see a lot of men's out there, there's, we were just trying to find some ladies over there, trying to approach them, because that's not many of us, where science, people think that science, men tax, not women tax. These are the things that, I would like to highlight today. And because I'm going to be the last one, I'm just going to finish very quickly, but happy International Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, you're a perfect example of what, the reality of young women and young professionals who are going into science are dealing with, from structural injustice and imbalance, but still, keep, moving ahead regardless of all of those struggles. And it feels like, from the data that, the curve is changing by the new generation who's like, okay, we don't care about all of those privileges that a lot of others had it. We're just going to jump. We're going to run like twice faster, and we will get there. And you're changing the history. So thank you so much for your leadership. We got to the last part and we're closing. Thank you so much for being with us. We're also happy that we have Sarah with us, who's like, always supportive of young people, innovation, and we're grateful to have that leadership. And that I'm not just saying this because she's here, but also it's a great example of when there's a space for creativity and innovation, we have more space to co-design with young people. A lot of today was designed with a group of young people. It was not a UN Women idea, and it was facilitated by a lot of them who had been a lot behind it. So it's a new things that we're trying out, to catch up with that technology and innovation. And we're hoping that all of you become part of that community. Sarah, would you like to give us closing remarks to send us off? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just want to make it clear that Emma just gave me a last minute assignment. I just popped by because I want to see you all, and I'm really sorry. I had some other meetings, so I couldn't come earlier, but it's really nice to have this privilege to be here with you all. Even just the last few minutes that I managed to join, it's very inspiring to hear the example from Dr. Sotira, and to know the topics that you've been discussing this afternoon, and to see your commitment. So I just want to really just thank everyone so much for the energy that you brought, the youth ambassadors, the energy that you brought into your videos and into your amazing commitment to really building a different future. And as UN Women, as Imad has said, I mean, we're not here to build the future, we're here to back up people who want to make change. That's our commitment, that's what we want to do. So we would always want to be led
by you. And that means we're always open to ideas. So it will be great to have your feedback about this way of working, other ideas that you have, other things that we can maybe support or facilitate for you, because that has to be our role as the UN. So with that, I just want to say a few thank yous. So thank you so much to LinkedIn, to SGAP, to the French Embassy, represented by Sebastian this afternoon, to Dr. Satira and all of the others who came here to share your examples and your learning and your thoughts and your inspiration. And a very special thank you to all of the youth ambassadors, 30 by 2030 advocates as well, for being part of this very, very important struggle and effort for the future. And thank you to Emad and all of the UN Women team for being so hardworking and always having exciting ideas and helping other people realize their exciting ideas. Thank you so much, everyone. And this is just part of a conversation, and we look forward to continue it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Happy International Women's Day every day. Drive safe, and we'll see you soon. You can mingle. You have a little bit here if you have questions.